Have you ever compared your potho size with the potho size of your neighbor or someone who is growing them on the tree? Why they are so huge in size? They both are the same plants, but one plant has very huge leaf and another one has very small leaf. Are they using some special kind of fertilizer or some magic technique? No, it's just that they know how these plants grow in the rainforest. So the plant, including the simple pothos or these philodendrons or monstera, they all fall in the same category. They are some kind of epiphyte like orchids, but semi-epiphyte, so they can climb on another trees. As simple as that. So the plant you see in your pot, like these in size, where they are just going in the pot, small leaved, so they are actually in their teenage age, so they are still kids, they have not entered into the adulthood or maturity. And how you can bring them into the maturity? By providing a support of moss pole, because this is how they grow in the nature. So if you ever get chance to go to a rainforest, you might have observed that these plants starts on the ground with small leaves like this, and then slowly steadily they start climbing the tree. As soon they start climbing the tree, the internodal distance between the leaf shorten up. For example, in this plant you can see the distance between two nodes or two leaf is huge, but if you will compare when they grow on the poles, the distance between the nodes and the leaves is smaller, right? So they look more fuller, more denser. Why? Because they are getting all the energy from this moss pole. In that case of rainforest, it will be a tree. When I say adulthood in plant, what does it mean exactly? So you might have observed all the plant have their special age in which they start giving the fruits or flower. Like you will never see a stem of a mango giving fruit within 2 year or like 3 year. They have to reach specific maturity before they start giving fruit or flower. Same with these plants also. So they are climbers, and in rainforest they climb on other trees, and they have this special tendency where when they start climbing the tree, they enter into adulthood. And this technique or this process is called thigmotropism. This exists in all the climber plants. So what happens, actually they have special hormones in their bodies like us, and these growth hormone start to go towards the upper plant part of the plant, which is growing up towards the tree. So as soon they starts climbing, the upper part will have more growth hormone and telling the plant that I need more growth here. So instead of sending more branches, what they do, they focus their whole energy on the top part of the plant. And here you see the magic. Then the whole energy, the plant from the root system start pushing in that direction, in upward direction. So all the leaves will become bigger in size and the stems will become very thick in size, so they absorb more nutrients, and with that they start climbing up. So you see the distance between two leaf also shorten up and they become more denser, right? This is the same reason like why your monstera is not having fenestration. So fenestration is another process where they start to have the holes in the leaves, so they look very beautiful, the typical monstera you see in all the designs. But most of the time people fail to understand this thing. It's not the problem of the nursery or some fertilizer or something like that. No, you just have to give them the right environment to grow. So the moment they start or the moment they get a support, they start giving fenestration in the leaf. So you will see very beautiful huge leaves of monstera, what you always dreamt of. So you just have to give the moss pole. How does it work? In this case, in your home, of course, you cannot bring a tree and attach your pothos or philodendron on them. So in that case, what we do, we use these kind of moss poles. Moss poles can be of different type. And one important thing in our Indian households, we sometimes think like, oh, we don't have the sphagnum moss, we cannot grow that thing. Another common problem I have seen is like in the nurseries in the south or in the north, in the south specifically, sorry, not in the north, they use sometimes the jute from the coconut fiber. That also works, but that works in South India only because it's very humid, so the jute can have more moisture. But in North India, like cities like let's say Delhi or Punjab or Himachal, where air is very dry all around the year, you have to buy sphagnum moss because sphagnum moss absorb more water. If you're using the jute, it will not work in the same way, and maybe your plant will dry quicker because jute also absorbs the moisture from the nearby environment. So it may make your plant dry more instead of the opposite what you were thinking of. So you have to use the sphagnum moss. In case if you don't have the sphagnum moss, no worries. What you can do, you can use old cloth. For example, here if I will demonstrate, I am using a special variety of skin depths which comes in 3 colors. The colors are not showing up yet, but it is a very special, beautiful variety, I will say. But here you can see what I'm doing. I'm using old towel, you see, or any cotton cloth. So you can just bundle up and put it inside the bowl, and voila, you will be having your moss bowl. So no fancy technique, it's just small, chicken mesh wire. You can wrap around and push it down with your old t-shirt or towel, and your moss bowl is ready. So once you have the moss bowl, you have to guide the plant to start growing towards it. So it has to be a little bit lengthier. You attach it and make secure the stem with the help of little bit sphagnum moss. Again, in case you don't have sphagnum moss, even a piece of cloth which absorbs huge amount of water like towel piece will work. If you don't have anything, you can also use tissue papers, but the tissue paper remains wet for some longer period of time, so the chances of infection is more, so better to use a towel. Okay, so once you use the towel, you can wrap it with the polythene, and soon the root from the stems will come out and it will attach itself to the moss bowl. And once it will attach to moss bowl, your task. So let's come to the basics of these plants. What is the potting mix? What should I add to go to these plants? So basically what we do, we use cocoa peat, we use cocoa chunk, we use small quantity of sand and no soil at all. And we make this mixture very chunky with the help of perlite. If you don't have the perlite, you can also have the broken thermocol pieces and mix it all together. And when you put the water in your plant, it should immediately come out within 10 seconds, let's say. You should start seeing water on your floor. If it is not happening, your plant may die. And you may think like, I have to press the roots really hard into the soil. No, don't do it, because they are aroids. So they, like I have shown you the example where they have the aerial root system, so they want to breathe. They don't like to be overwatered or always sitting with the water around them. So the mixture should be very airy, so air can flow through it. And that's why when you grow in the moss bowl also, they enjoy more air circulation around the plant. So you have to make sure your mixture is very fluffy in terms and very chunky. Okay, so this is one thing, like the potting mix. Second, what kind of pot you should choose? You can choose any pot. Like in this example, actually I'm using a yogurt bucket. It doesn't make any difference. So if you want to look them very fancy, maybe you can buy some transparent plastic one, or you can grow in the clay pot. They do really well in all kind of pots. So it's not a worry, but it is only a choice on you, like what you want to have. Then the third thing is like the fertilization, how you should fertilize them. Very good that you have given them the moss bowl. Thanks to you, you have provided them the support so they can grow like a rainforest, but they also need nutrition. So what you want to do, you will put water and add some fertilizer into it, maybe the water soluble one, or you can also use the chunkier one like the granules, and mix into the water. And once in every 2 weeks, you can put on the top of your moss bowl, so the whole moss bowl is drenching with that water, with the fertilizer and solvent, and the root around the moss bowl will absorb them very quickly, and they will respond really good, and they will become very bigger in the size, what I'm saying. So this is another thing. And in nature, how they fertilize themselves, so in the trees up, they have so many monkeys, they have so many birds, so they are always pooping around. And when it happens the rain, so all the slush goes through the tree stems, and the roots of these plants, which are already attached to the tree, they start absorbing that from there, because the poop of the birds have the nitrogen and urea into it, which is very good for the plant. So this is the way how they fertilize themselves in the nature, but you have to mimic that in your home. So that's why I'm saying, like, always put the fertilizer in water and make it drip from the top. Don't put it into the base, because actually the base, after some point, base is actually not having any root. So it is just like the support system for the moss bowl, but actually all the root has been shifted to the moss bowl. So even if you will cut them half, the plant is not going to die, because the roots are already in the moss bowl. So this is another way. Like if you want to do the extension of the moss bowl, I can do a separate video where I can make a extension. You just have to attach another pole over here, push some more sphagnum moss or old cloth, and the tree will continue. Or if you want to give to your friend, you just, I can even do it now, I can chop it into the half. The plant will not die because the upper part will be a separate plant and lower plant is another separate plant. So you can do like this if you want to do. And another thing, to make them look fluffier and fuller, it may happen that you will observe that lower leaves are falling out. That is totally possible. Like, it is the natural way, like they go up and the lower leaves will shred down. So what you will do, sorry, you have to grow 2 or 3 stems together on the moss pole, but it can make it very fuller. When they are small, they may look nicer, but once the leaves become very bigger in size, it can be a trouble. So 2 stems are fine. In the Scindapsus varieties or pothos varieties, multiple stems look better. But for single stem varieties like Philodendron melanochrysum or Philodendron white knight, these varieties, one is fine. Even if it is getting naked on the bottom side, it doesn't matter actually. But if you want them to look fuller, you can also grow one more stem. Another idea could be to make a whole panel out of these moss pole, grow them together in a rectangular section, and then you will see they will look different, like very amazing, because now you have a whole array on the same pot. So that is another. Sorry guys for this mesh, but here you can see the plant is throwing roots in all the direction. Of course, there is nothing in this direction, so these small roots which are growing in air are called aerial root. So these aerial roots are very important for these plants to climb up. So once they start throwing the aerial roots, some of the aerial roots will find their way in the moss pole or in the tree, and they will embed themselves and start sucking the nutrients from the environment, in that case from the moss pole or the tree, whatever it is. And the good thing is, like on the top you can put some water or water soluble fertilizer, you can give them directly. And this is a very nice technique to grow plants like this in indoor environment, because most of the time in our indoor places, in our rooms, we don't have much space, so we cannot have huge containers in which we can grow these plants. In this vertical way, they are climbing up. So I don't know if you guys have seen Sydney plant guy. So you can have this pot for like 10 years maybe with you, and the plant is actually going in upward direction. So you can have whole array of these plants behind you, and they're just climbing and climbing and climbing with huge trees, and they look very amazing. No painting or no expensive light setup or ceiling can replace these plants. They look amazingly beautiful in the house. So once they are there, you will observe it's so easy to take care of, because you're putting water from the top side, you don't have a huge container, and they're so light in weight also, because they're actually just in the air. Actually they're in the air, so you can move them around the house in one corner or another corner. So that is the best technique to grow these kind of climbers, and they look amazing. Like last year I was visiting in Tenerife, and there was a huge botanical garden, and they were having the varieties of philodendron like squamiferum, and then they were having the Florida ghost. They were having so many different varieties of beautiful velvety philodendron like melanochrysum. And the size, and you can see in these pictures, like the size of the plants were almost like me. So they become that big, so that is the beauty of these plant, that once they are small, they look like this, very fragile, and you may think like, oh, it is nothing, but once they start climbing, you will see the real potential of the plant. Now another thing you may think of, like why they need fenestration. Like, though it looks architecturally very beautiful on the plant, most of the philodendron varieties you may have seen having the pokes on the leaves, specifically like Monstera deliciosa or Monstera adansoni obliqua, and these are like very beautiful plants. And in nowadays, like, people are intentionally hybridizing them to have more space, bigger holes. I don't know why, it doesn't make any sense, but I don't know why, but yeah, they look very tropical and very strange, but they have a special power to pull your attention towards themselves. So why they have these kind of holes? So what happens in the rainforest, imagine you are a climber and you are going up and you have huge leaves. What will happen? Either some gust of wind will make you knock off of the plant or tree, or maybe if it is raining, you may slip away. So this is a technique of nature where they have these huge leaves with the holes, so the wind can pass by, so they don't knock off from the tree. And second thing, the water can also filter down, like it's like a umbrella with the hole. Imagine if it is not, then what will happen? It may make the plant hole very plant climber very slippery. And also in this way they help the lower section of the plant to get more water, more energy. And third important thing is the sunlight. The plant world is not foolish so they also have kind of brain, not exactly brain, but they are very smart. They know they just don't want to grow themselves, they also want their babies to grow. So that's why also they have these holes, so the sunlight can pass through and make a filter and go towards the lower section of plants, so they also can survive. So because of these three reasons, the fenestration happens in the plant. And in early stage it is not required because they are not climbing up. So this is the whole point which we are discussing here. If we don't have the moss pole, the plant is never going to enter into the adulthood, and then you will have the same plant small in size like this, or with small leaves. If you want to have some hanging basket, maybe it will look nicer, but if you want to see the real nature potential, you must have these kind of moss poles. Another thing is, like, sometimes people ask us like what kind of varieties go well with them. So I will say all pipers, like the common one which already is a spice. What spice? Yeah, black pepper spice. Yeah. So they also have a family of plant which have very beautiful leaves. So all the sandpipers are very good climbers. They also grow bigger in size, but their leaf size is adequate. Like, they don't grow very big. But if you want to have huge leaf size, then I will suggest you Philodendron melanochrysums, Philodendron white knight, pink princess, squamiferous, and Monstera varieties. Like I said, Adansoni grows really well, and Monstera. You can have the Deliciosa variety, and Philodendron also have mecans, or you can have the beautiful pothos. Pothos comes in so many different varieties. Like, you can have Enjoy Potho, you can have Marble Queen, you can have the Skin Depths Gray, you can have Skin Depths Pictus. If you want to find some more crazy plants like this, you can go to our website. There also you have the Philodendron gloriosum. You should not forget, that is also very amazing plant. Melanochrysum I have already said. So these are the plants which looks amazing on the moss pole. Also Paraisio verde, they also have like golden spray on the leaves on the green background, and they also look amazing on the moss pole. So these are the varieties which can totally change the interior of your house, and they look amazingly beautiful. So these are the plants which I will definitely go for the moss pole. So at the end, we can say plant world is crazier. It is crazier than the fiction. The aroids are much more crazier. If you like these aroids, you can go on our website. There is a huge discount currently going on, and you can buy these crazier plant in small size and you can enjoy them. Second thing, don't forget to like, share and subscribe Buds and Blush. Check out our website also, and we'll see you next time. Interact with us. You can pass on the comment. You can tell us like what problem you are facing, or you can also suggest us what you want to see next time. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.